Have you ever been stuck between a rock and a hard place? Are your eyebrows bigger than your eyes? We are gathered here today to address the eyebrows in the room, the elephant in the room, the new champion released into the Rift not too long ago, Taliyah. This champion is one of the weaker champions upon release. You see, Riot has this habit of making champions extremely overpowered, broken, literally broken, like Azir. However, there are exceptions to this habit. One of the first exceptions to come to my mind about champions that were not so overpowered or maybe even underpowered upon release was actually Bard. Now before you get your panties in a twist, just remember, I'm not saying that Bard was a bad champion upon release, but nobody really knew exactly how to play Bard. And that's how I feel where Taliyah is right now. I feel like Taliyah has potential. And one of the most frustrating things about her having this much potential is that it's so obvious. The fact that she can do so much in a team fight or so much catching somebody out, but you can't really figure out how or where to put it, is probably the most frustrating thing about Taliyah. Believe me, I've had my hardships with Taliyah. The game you're watching in the background currently, I've actually died, I think, 15 or plus times. So she's definitely not an easy champion to pick up and play. Control mages never really are though. In fact, much like Bard and Zero Like, both had this adjustment period of when the champion was first released until it was actually seen in competitive and or LCS play. And so Taliyah is going through what I like to call the adjustment period at this time. People are learning how to play her, learning what comps she's good with, and learning when to pick her, and that is the biggest thing. In this game, Fizz was probably not the best matchup for Taliyah. As you see many times throughout this game, Fizz will Q and E on top of me or towards me. When he E's, my E will not do any damage to him because he is invulnerable. When he Qs, yes, it will do damage to him because it is technically a dash ability. However, it is very hard to judge when he's going to use his Q or E. And that brings me to my next topic. Why Taliyah's abilities are so hard to use. Unlike Bard and Azir, Taliyah's abilities rely heavily off of the enemy's movements. Now, of course, you can predict where they're going to go with her W, and of course, you can predict where they're going to go with her Q. But her E is so much damage. In fact, it's where most of her damage comes from. And if you cannot land your W, or maybe it's a champion that can dash out of the W very easily, maybe you might have to use her E in order to predict where they're going to dash to. And with such a short range on her E, it's kind of hard to use predictions with that E. But not only is this a very skillful champion to play, with the fact that all of her abilities are extremely hard to land, all of her abilities, in fact, do really low damage. Her Q, yeah, you can throw out, I think it's like 5 or 6 at a time. But that is only when you're off of Unraveled Earth. And when you're in such a small lane like mid lane, it's kind of hard to get around those Unraveled Earths. And yes, you can bring up the fact that when you're on Unraveled Earth, you get movement speed and your Q has a 50% mana reduction. But only throwing out one Q doesn't really seem worth it. And yes, when you hit them with the succeeding Qs when it's off of Unraveled Earth, I know it does less damage, but still, that's a lot more damage. But in fact, that's not even where I struggle most with Taliyah. It's not even her damage or landing her abilities, it's her ult and team fighting. With most champions that are low damage or have a control-y playstyle, they have some kind of ult that's extremely impactful. And maybe I haven't found how Taliyah's ult can be extremely impactful, but it seems like it can mess up so much like Bard's ult, or even Azir's ult. There have been many times where I've gone into a game and maybe I haven't played Azir in a long time, or maybe it was even the first game I've ever played Azir, and I have thrown the enemy in the complete wrong direction with his ult. There have also been times where I have thrown a Bard ult and I completely fuck up the entire team fight. I have maybe thrown it on an entire enemy team and saved them, Or maybe throwing it on a Darius when he's mid-ult about to kill the ADC. So Bard and Taliyah alike actually had some of the lowest win rates in the entire game upon release. Taliyah, I think, dropping below 40% in ranked at one point, Bard being much that way. In fact, I remember some games when Bard first came out, I would say don't ban, or I'm gonna play some Bard this game, and some ADCs would even dodge because of how much ADCs and the Bards alike had no idea how to play him. Most ADCs didn't know how to play without a support in lane while Bard was roaming to collect chimes, and most Bards had no idea how to use his ult or land his Q or when to roam for chimes. Taliyah, not knowing when to knock them away with her W and not knowing when to knock them towards you with her W, it's extremely hard to decide. There's so much decision making and practice throughout playing her consistently that honestly, I don't think her win rate will spike for probably another couple weeks. Or maybe even when Riot decides to buff her. So what do you guys think of Taliyah? Is she really that bad? Or does she have this secret, hidden greatness to her that nobody has found yet? But in the meantime, make sure you watch your rating and don't tank it with Taliyah. See you guys in the next video.